Our next guest is an 18-year-old founder who tokenized himself to crowdfund a gap year before the University of Pennsylvania, enabling him to move to Silicon Valley and pursue building Monument, a decentralized NFT platform for crowdfunding emerging talent. Previously, he founded BitSwap, a cryptocurrency exchange that transacted $3 million in volume, and he's also a Knowledge Society alumni. Please join me in welcoming Sigil to the stage. Hey.
Hello.
Can we do a fist bump? Is this something?
Yeah.
Have a seat. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to Campus Party Canada.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's just start by talking about what you're up to. You're in a gap year. What are you working on? What's going on with you right now in your career?
Yeah, so I just flew from San Francisco. So was there living in this founder house with a lot of other CEOs working on $100 million companies, and it's a really cool environment and kind of like my way of supplementing college at the moment. Right now, essentially, before I thought that cryptocurrencies were an incredibly unique way to enable human potential, and I've used it to leverage for myself. And I thought that, oh wait, if I could do it for myself, what if we can incentivize the crowd enablement of talent at scale? And that's why I'm working on Monument right now. Yeah.
Very cool. So when we were talking previously, I was like, okay, we could talk about all this stuff, but one thing you really wanted to touch on and start with is authenticity, and I found that very interesting. I'm curious what you've learned through either, tokenizing yourself or, cryptocurrency, what you've learned about authenticity in business, and, why was this so important to you to talk about?
I think authenticity extends much more beyond business. Naval Ravikant once said, escape competition through authenticity. And what that essentially means is that, everyone is trying to be someone or someone, and there's a lot of competition there. But truly being authentic is being yourself. So Elon Musk, no one can compete with Elon Musk on being Elon, right? Similar to how if I'm truly being myself, no one can compete with me doing that. And I think that on this journey, I think I value authenticity a lot because of the fact that, okay, this is a real moment. I grew up actually with a lot of anxiety, and that was just something that I don't think you guys see right now. If you got 5th grade Sigil, and then saw me on here right now, he'd probably poop his pants. But all in all, through the internet and how I've been approaching things, I've just been constantly documenting my growth process. I have a YouTube channel. You can search it up. It's my name, Sigil Wen. But I've shown the journey, and what you'll see there is that the grade 9 and young Sigil, I was never a really great speaker, but I think by being authentic and being true to hey, I'm not this genius. Instead, I'm a human who is very growth-minded and just goes after whatever he enjoys. I think that is a way to inspire more people to do cool things and do what they really like.
Awesome. That is so cool. Your YouTube channel rules, by the way. I
Thank
went
you.
on a little bit of a deep dive. I really liked, what you were talking about as well. There was a video on serendipity. That was one that really stuck with me, and that you were offered $100,000 for your company. Can you tell us that story and talk about where serendipity plays a part also in your growth as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so that story was what happened was that I posted on this decentralized social media platform called BitClout, which is also powered by blockchain. And it was just a post asking for introductions to the Thiel Fellowship, which is a fellowship that gives you $100,000 to drop out of school. In the process right now. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. But anyways, basically from that post, Dharmesh, the founder of HubSpot, which is a publicly traded billion-dollar company, just offered me $100,000 for 1% of my company. But beyond that, which was absolutely crazy how a social media post can lead to something like that, the idea of serendipity is structuring and engineering luck for yourself. I think the internet has enabled everyone to be able to do this, and a lot of people just haven't realized it yet. So one example and one analogy I used to think about the internet's kind of like this stage that I'm on right now, right? I'm talking with you, and also the crowd out here, right? So the thing is that every piece of content of like thing that can invoke virality or can be shared or generates value for people, whether that be blog posts, websites, like companies and projects, to like my YouTube videos, right? All of these things all tie back to me, and essentially is me putting myself out there, similar to how I'm on like the stage right now. And the thing is that everyone on the internet can see that, right? Everyone in this entire stadium can see me and see Laura here, right? And I can also see everyone else on the stage, right, through their presence on the internet. But if you're in like the crowd, you would only be able to see the people immediately beside you, and I could just barely see who's out there. And by putting yourself out there on the internet and really putting yourself in a position where a lot of cool people can come and discover you, that's really where a lot of serendipitous things can happen. You gotta realize that the world is driven on connections and people, and a lot of crazy things can happen through that. And putting yourself out there is like a really great way to engineer that luck. As look, everyone's just watching me now.
Right on.
Yeah.
But you're very smart about it. I also read a post where you were talking in great detail about sort of the rules you have around social media. I mean, you're not just like on it all the time. There's limits to what device you use, etc. And I'm sort of curious how you find that balance of being authentic, not really oversharing, staying sane, not being anxious about what you're putting out there. Like, how do you walk that line? Because I think a lot of people out there might struggle with their social media input or activity or diet. It's a big platform, bunch of platforms.
Yeah, I think like there's two components to social media. One is like basically what Web 2.0 or like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all these different platforms have optimized because it's this ad-based economy. What happens is that, they're trying to engage you and optimize for your attention through like 6-second hyper-stimulating clip. And what I noticed, especially like when I went to like Silicon Valley, is that a lot of people there, especially as they've seen that technology evolve, they don't partake in it because they know, right? You've probably also seen like Facebook's like recent like whistleblower on the whole thing. And so I'm personally like very mindful of like how I let myself get stimulated, and so I try not to like be on feeds, but from time to time you can find me binging like YouTube and whatever I like. The other side of like social media, I think, is like how you portray yourself. And I think a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there because they care what people think, right?
Yeah.
And another part is that with social media, you see everyone fixating like their posts to optimize an image of themselves. But I think like fundamentally, like you'll be the happiest if you're able to like fully express who you are. And I had to like overcome a lot of like personal like hurdles, and I have cared about like, and I still do, right? I care a lot about like how I'm portrayed to other people. But ultimately, I feel like by representing like my fullest self, that's like when I feel the happiest in terms of expression. And that's, I think, like there's a degree where people no longer like judge you, but they respect you for who you are.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any advice for those who are listening, who are your age, who are maybe struggling with being themselves and struggling with feeling okay being seen as themselves on all these platforms and just showing up in the world? I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah, so one thing I think that really helped was that what you got to realize is we are mimetic beings, right? Rene Descartes' theory of human behavior basically states that we really care about their environment and we have like similar desires. And so being like very influenced by your environment, one thing you got to realize is that you can control the people you hang out with, the content you consume, and right now because of like COVID, you might realize that like environments doesn't just have to be the school you go to or the university you go to or the place you work, but it can be like digital communities. And I'm personally like building a Discord server that's just aimed at like people from all ages, just trying to figure that out. Like, how do you build authenticity? How do you build up your skill set to be able to build a life that you want to live? And you could like join that at like discord.gg/Sigil. But all in all, you can connect with anyone, literally anyone on the internet. Like I've connected with my biggest heroes, and they actually invested in me, which is like really like something that hard to wrap my head around. But at the end of the day, like everyone has email, everyone has a presence. There's always a way to reach someone, and there's always a way to make friends on the internet.
I love it. You mentioned something about sort of building your life, and on your LinkedIn bio, I love this. you basically said, building a life on your own terms with a little smiley face. And I'm curious, what have you learned about this process of like building the life that you want? What are the terms you've landed on? And for those who are still building, like, do you have any sense of how to get there?
I think that with life, the purpose, a lot of huge purpose is just like to achieve happiness, is to be happy. And a medium towards achieving that is to seek control over different factors. I remember like in high school, I actually went to like one of the top academic programs in Canada that sends like a kid to Harvard every year, and every Asian parent would want hi dad, would want their child to go there. But I actually dropped out of that program intentionally because I thought that this program was very prescriptive and there's a lot of factors I couldn't control. And if I were to leave and have like a lot of control in time and dictate how I spent my time, I knew I'd be happier and I knew I would be able to achieve more. In terms of like different factors, right? Like, or different terms, like now, like on my gap year, I'm not in school. I don't need to worry at all about like my personal finances because I controlled that. And I can just like spend my time and energy and focus however I want at the moment. And yeah, like that just comes from like deliberately thinking like, how do I want to, what is the life that you want to live, right? And I think that like from the start, it's like, I just started questioning things. And maybe it comes from being lazy, like, I don't want to do this homework. Let me think of ways to like find out ways to like do what I truly like. But
right.
Yeah.
Hack the system. So you're in a gap year. How is it going? What are you working on? What's the best part of sort of dropping out and doing your own thing?
I would say that like all in all, it's like pretty hard. There's a lot of uncertainty, but it's very fulfilling again because with this process, I mean, right now I'm like figuring out how to hire people. I am like gone through like so much like legal stuff recently. But yeah, it's pretty stressful and honestly, like I think it's pretty good because I feel like I dealt with a lot of things that is just like so much harder than like the average kid my age would go through, and that just like becomes like so much hardening, and I think that like is really fulfilling. I think like happiness and fulfillment comes from like really just like that delta between your highest states and your lowest states, right? And finding peace and control and overcoming like these obstacles, I think bring like and really highlight those like high points, right? It's like, oh wow, I'm like really happy I overcame these things.
Yeah, it's the school of life sometimes is more challenging than school. Great. I just want to quickly mention that to everybody in the room and online that the Slido is open in case you feel like asking our guests some questions as we go. Yeah, is it okay with you if we bring on your TKS cohort colleague? We've got another Knowledge Society alumni here today. Jessie Pound is a second-year mechanical materials engineering student at Queen's University. Her mission is to make the world a more sustainable place through tech and entrepreneurship, and she's especially passionate about natural disasters and agriculture tech, and is currently writing a book about the future of agriculture technology. So she's going to join us on this conversation. Welcome, Jessie. Hello.
Hi.
So you can sit, like, I guess, distanced, but yeah, this is pretty good. You guys have talked before, right? But this is bringing you together for the first time at Campus Party Canada?
At Campus Party, yes. We had like breakfast this morning, and then like we walked here from the Sheridan Hotel.
Okay, great. So you're getting acquainted. That's great. So Jessie, I was hoping we could start by talking about your book that's coming out. What's it about? What is going on? When is it? When can we expect to see it on the shelves?
Yeah, so I am currently a couple chapters in a book about agriculture technology or ag tech. And I'm sort of just talking about what the agriculture scene looks like today and what it's going to look like in the future, and sort of how it has evolved in the past like 10,000 years since agriculture practices were first implemented, and how like our growing population led to this boom and this like need for efficiency and specialization, and how that turned into some very unsustainable practices, and how that's going to impact the future of climate change, and how technology plays a role in all of that.
Wow, these are all big topics.
Yes.
And people listening might not think of agritech as an obvious sort of sector to join. And I'm curious why you think that is, and maybe what's the pitch from you about why the folks out there who are studying and wanting to start their careers should really consider this sector as a place they can grow and thrive.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. It's definitely, I think a large part of it is because agriculture isn't, especially for the younger generation, is not a very obvious thing to look at. There's so many other things happening right now, like blockchain and artificial intelligence, which definitely is a lot flashier, I guess. But agriculture, if you look into it, it will play such a large role in whether or not we can actually stop climate change. I think it's up there with like the top two being obviously clean energy, renewables, sustainable energy production. And I think agriculture and having sustainable agriculture and being able to feed our very rapidly growing population is right up there with it. So I definitely think that younger people really should look more into it, because it's actually really interesting, and all of these technologies that we've been talking about are actually being implemented with it. So like, for example, blockchain is being used to like track the sources of different food so that you can ensure that it comes from a sustainable source, and AI is being used to help monitor crops to increase efficiency, which is a huge thing. Even just increasing efficiency by 1% to 2% in agriculture makes a huge difference. So that's a big reason why I'm writing this book, is to get the younger generation more into that.
Okay, cool. Can you tell us a little bit also about your other projects and your other agricultural work in the sector? I want to mention Project Firefly. What is it?
Yes. Project Firefly. So Project Firefly actually started through a hackathon within the Knowledge Society, which Sigil and I are both part of. And it was a moonshot hackathon, so moonshot technology being any technology that seems impossible at first. So named after like moonshot as in like when we first went to the moon. That seemed totally impossible, but it just kind of proved what humans can do if we work together. You can achieve seemingly the impossible. So that was the whole theme of the hackathon. And I was working with two other people from TKS from Las Vegas, and we came across this concept of using sound to put fires out. And it was started in back in 2016 by these two engineering students in their last year. And we were like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, where are all the updates? Like, we haven't heard about this since 2016. And we were interested in how this could potentially be used with drones. So we reached out to this company that had been very briefly mentioned in one of the few articles we saw on this technology, that we're apparently trying to partner with these two guys to work on this with drones. And we actually figured out that they were still working on this, and they had kind of pivoted away from sound to using vortex cannons, which they're not the same as sound. They're like air pressure, so they're like rings of air that have positive pressure on one side, negative on the other side, and they sort of push and pull fire off its fuel base to contain it or extinguish it.
Wow.
And so through this hackathon, we ended up building a partnership with this company and identifying the main barriers to entry for this technology, and we ended up continuing afterwards. So we're still working on this. We're still partnered with the company, and we're very in research validation mode right now, but hopefully we'll start some technical testing within the next couple months, and then hopefully start implementing it in the real world within the next 3 to 5 years, because we definitely need it. Wildfires are becoming a lot worse due to the drier and hotter climates from climate change. So yeah.
Wow, that's such an ambitious, amazing sounding project. I'm wishing you all the best luck with this. You both mentioned, being part of the Knowledge Society, and I'm hoping you both might be able to talk a little bit about sort of the importance of that community and learning from your peers and growing a community, in your case, Sigil. I'm curious what you think, for people who are even outside the TKS, how do you advise them to make the most of the people around them, and even if they're very different and from very different sectors?
Yeah, I can start off. I think that an earlier point I made was that the world's driven on people, and I think that was like one of the biggest things that TKS has taught me. And it was like during COVID, oh my God, I literally transferred to a new school, but then school went all online, and it's like, I don't have any friends. So what I did instead was that literally just like whoever I came across that I thought was cool, was like, oh my God, this guy's such a cool writer, or like this person's working on such a cool company. I just like message them like, yo, I think you're cool. You wanna talk? That led to like doing like a meeting a week, to a couple meetings a week, to like a couple meetings a day. And I think over COVID, I did like a couple hundred to near like 500 like meetings with all sorts of different people who I thought were interesting. And that's like one thing that I think that TKS was really helpful with in sort of like getting that ball rolling. Like initially when we first started, I was like, okay, you want me to meet people on the internet? But what that led to was a lot of, again, serendipity and amazing life-changing opportunities and relationships that like I've built. Right? Not only just connecting with people, but developing that relationship so that they want to help you in your career or in your own life. And yeah, like one thing that I did was that I just added everyone's emails. I send them a calendar invite, and we do the call, get their email after, add them to my newsletter, and I just started sending them like monthly updates. Like, oh, here's what I'm working on right now. Oh, I did this like video competition. Oh, I got a finalist. But what that actually led to was interesting, and here's another earlier example of serendipity, where just by connecting with random cool people on the internet and then updating them frequently, some of them were like, oh, Sigil's getting into like very creative things, right? I have a friend who wants someone very creative to work on their project, and and from that, I just got a bunch of like inbound requests of like, oh, do you want to edit a video? Do you want to build my company's website? And I'm like, okay, for $500, $1,000. And that was actually like the first, like, I think, like contracting business I created. And then it got to a point where like so many people were like asking me and referring me, because relationships, they refer you to different people that they know. And then I was like, okay, this is too much for me. Let me hire and train up like other peers to do it. So built like my first like agency. It's called like Sigil Digital. Not Sigil, my name's Sigil, but Sigil, it's the word. But yeah, and then worked on that for a period of time.
Okay, cool. That sounds very like, it was really good on the investment in the time in those relationships. And what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, building relationships and a community of like-minded people is so important. As someone who did TKS a bit later, I did it in my first year of university. There was such a huge difference in just my standards for myself. In high school, a lot of my friends, the goal was just to sort of get good grades, get into a good university. And coming into TKS, everyone was just so highly motivated on working on things that actually had an impact and that they were passionate about. And they were already, having these amazing opportunities. People who were already in, like, crazy people in the field were, like, in their network. And it just completely changes your standards. So, like, ensuring that who you surround yourself with matches the highest, like, the craziest version of yourself, who you want to be, is so important. And even if not through TKS, like, do it through LinkedIn, do it through Twitter, just reach out to people and set up like 5 meetings a day like Sigil, and it makes such a big difference.
Right on. You mentioned university, and this was a question that I had for both of you. How do you advise those who are still in university and in school to make the most of it while they can before they take a gap year?
I think Jessie can answer this question better.
Yeah, I think it's very important if you're doing university, like, to just really reflect on what your values are and reflect on what the intention is behind going. So for me, for example, the intention wasn't to go to university and ace all my courses. The intention is to go to university, build a really cool network, just have the experience of being with all these people who are similar in age to you at a very similar time, where you're just trying to figure things out, what's going on in your life. And and use the resources that come with university to your biggest advantage. So like, if your priorities are to like going to grad school, for example, then yeah, maybe you should focus more on your grades and everything. But I think for me and for a lot of people who are interested in entrepreneurship, it's more about building that network and then, I don't know, finding a co-founder and taking some time, like maybe take away 10% of the time you spend studying and focus that on doing a side project. And then maybe that side project turns into like a business, and then you drop out of university. You don't need that degree. You know, like I don't think a degree is as important. You can be super successful without one. Like, look at Sigil. He's already started a company.
I was about to say his face is giving it away. Do you have anything to add to this from the other side?
I think fundamentally, like regardless of where you are, just like seek understanding like what you truly enjoy and want, and then optimize for that. And it's easy to get caught up in like a rat race or just like what everyone else is doing around you. It's like, what do you want to do? Go for it, and you'll get it, and you'll be so much happier.
Right on. I'm so sad we're out of time because you guys are so cool. But can you let the people know where they can find you, connect with you, stay in touch?
Yeah, you can find me. You can visit my website, sigilwen.ca, or check out my YouTube channel, SIGILWEN. It's on YouTube. And also, I think, like, yeah, the sites there, they show my socials.
Oh, nice. There's all your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, best place to reach out to me would be through LinkedIn probably, and I have a Calendly link on there, so feel free to set up a meeting with me.
And when can we expect your book?
I am planning hopefully by summertime.
Okay,
hopefully.
cool. Well, I'm going to keep my eyes out for sure. Thank you both for coming. Good luck with all of your projects, and it's been such a delight to talk to you. Thanks for being at Campus Party Canada.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, my next guest here has a PhD in sociology and is a software developer at Shopify. He co-founded